Hey, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to continue with the reassembly on the 89 ZX7, so stay tuned. So like I said, in this video we're going to continue the reassembly process for the 89 Ninja ZX7, or in some countries ZXR 750. And the first thing I'm going to do is put the forks back in. And so basically what that entails is taking the freshly rebuilt forks that you would have seen in the earlier video and putting them back up through here in the triple clamps, as you know. And in the process of doing that, I've got to put the handlebars back on as well. So we'll get that done, and then basically at this point it's just kind of retracing my steps, going through the process of kind of in my book, my notebook here, which has got all the steps recorded. I basically just backtrack, and as I do each step I just check off the number and work my way backwards. Occasionally I'll get a little excited and go, a few steps. For instance, if I didn't have the forks done like I didn't for this section, then I went ahead and did a few other things, just because it's not going to matter a hill of beans difference whether I put something on the back end or the front end first. But generally speaking, I just kind of retrace my steps. And then the other thing I tend to do as well is I'll make some special notes on the reassembly process. So when I put the triple clamps back on, it's kind of difficult to retorque this top nut unless you've actually got the forks in, because otherwise everything just kind of moves around. It doesn't work that well. So I just make a note in the book. So I have an unchecked box there for torquing that top nut on the triple clamp stem. And yeah, it's a pretty straightforward process, just kind of going backwards. And then the other thing that I do is I get to each particular step. There's usually something in there where you've got to clean things up. I like the wiring harness would have to be cleaned up before it goes back in. Some areas of that would need to be retaped. Things that need to be painted and all of that kind of good stuff. So yeah, especially things like the brakes. So the brakes haven't even been touched yet, and they're a mess. So they'll have to be disassembled and rebuilt before they go back on the bike. But we will get to that in due course. So let's get at it. The only thing that I had to kind of finagle a little bit here is this Allen bolt was very, very difficult to thread in. It was extremely stiff. It almost felt like that the threads were kind of galled up in some way, shape, or form. So what I did was I chased the thread inside here with the tap, and then I also cleaned up the thread on the bolt with an 8mm 1.25 die. So yeah, just clean out the threads inside the headstock top clamp with that tap, and then I used the this dye to clean up the thread, and then it went in really nice. All right, so here's a great example of the kind of stuff that as you're doing the reassembly, you've got to, you have to kind of pick and choose and fix stuff or clean stuff up as you go. And so this is one of those things. So these are the rear wheel tensioners, and then the kind of, I don't know what these are called, but they're kind of like a shim. They kind of fit over the swing arm at the back, and then this is the assembly that fits inside the swing arm to tension the chain and move the rear wheel back and forth. This is just a case of cleaning these things up because they're disgustingly filthy. Same with this stuff. I don't think these are supposed to be painted at all. They're just kind of silver, probably zinc plated originally, but I'm not going to be replating these things. Again, I will say that these things can cost you an absolute fortune. And to be honest, there is really, if you're going to go to this, there's two ways to look at it. You can say, well, if you're going to go this far, you might as well go all the way. That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is you do it to a budget, which is what I try to do. I mean, it's you typically are not going to get your money back in many cases, depending on how well you bought the bike in the first place. But even a bike that you buy pretty cheap, the amount of money it takes to put one of these things back together, depending on kind of where you are and what the values of them are, it's exceptionally difficult to get. Well, let's say to make a profit on it. That's not why I do it, but you're typically not going to make money on this sort of stuff. At least that's where my findings are. I'm kind of lucky if I break even on this sort of stuff. So I try to be smart about things. If I can clean it up and it's going to be clean enough, then that's the way I'm going to go. I'm not going to spend crazy amounts of money zinc plating things. If I had maybe one of the things I'll invest in the future is the kind of the home plating kits. I know you can buy those. I don't have one, so my process is kind of clean it up, see how it looks, and then kind of go from there. If I have to rattle can something or paint it to get it to look presentable, and I'll do that. But these kinds of things they're not going to a plater, that's for sure. So I cleaned up all the axle components, all the bushings and whatnot. Everything has been lubed, greased, never seized, whatever the case may be. So front one is in, it's just waiting for the wheel. Same with the back one. Greased everything, put never seize on certain parts and whatnot. So everything is kind of just waiting for the wheels to go on, and the wheels are still sitting here. It's been about a week since these were painted, and today is the 20th or the 21st of December, and these are not going to be able to have tires mounted until the week of January the 2nd. The guy that does my tire mounting is kind of booked up until then, which is no big deal. We'll take the tires in and get them mounted that first week of January. By then, that clear coat should be nice and cured, and less chance of kind of tearing it off the rim when they mount that set of tires on there. He usually does a pretty good job protecting those freshly painted wheels anyway, but the longer they can wait and the better that stuff is cured, the less chance of that happening. So yeah, so wait for that. When they come back, obviously brake rotors have to go back on, and cush drive and all that kind of exciting stuff has to be done. But until then, we're going to push on with just sort of some of the smaller ancillary bits. I have to mount the side stand. Wiring harness has to go back in here. Again, just kind of picking away at things in reverse order. So this bolt hole here was completely stripped out, and there was to hold the side stand on, there was a bolt with a nut running through it, which was really long and awful close to the chain and whatnot. So instead of putting that back in, I'm going to tap it and helicoil it. So I've already drilled it out to the next size for the helicoil. Next job is just tapping it before I put the helicoil in it. So I'll give it a turn, then back it off a little bit, use a bit of WD-40 to lube the process. All right, so the helicoil is in there. It's the correct size. It's a 10mm 1.25 pitch. And now I can put the brand new bolts in. These brand new ones I got should work fine. There we go. Side stand is back on. Good to go. So one of the things that needs to be changed on this bike is the foot pegs. They've got these awful, to me, I don't like them at all, aftermarket pinky purple foot pegs. Somebody might like them, but not what I'm looking for in a OEM style restoration. So I got a new set of foot pegs off eBay, genuine items, so they can go on there. So I got to disassemble all this stuff. I want to disassemble the brake master and the calipers and all of this stuff, clean everything up, re-clear coat this. I'll polish it up a bit and get the kind of finish I want on it, clear coat it, change the foot pegs out. Alright, so I'm going to disassemble this rear brake caliper. Pull these pins out from the inside here. They go through these rods. So basically pull the pins out, pull the rods out, take the clips off, pull the pads, and then we'll pump up the rear brake here and see if we can pop these pistons out. Well, somebody squeezed every last ounce of life out of those rear pads. There is absolutely nothing left. That is ridiculous. Why would you ride a bike like that? And brake pads are not expensive. All right, so the caliper is kind of, well, it is split in half now. I had no choice. This side, the piston would quite easily move in and out, and I managed to pop it out. This side, piston wouldn't move at all. It wouldn't move in, wouldn't move out, and I don't know if that's because, well, that's the O-ring. What's left of the O-ring? It actually does. Well, yeah, that's. That's a mess. So anyway, now that the Canada Post strike is over, I guess I'm probably going to have to find a rebuild kit for the rear caliper. I haven't been able to find one yet. What a mess! Holy cow! But yeah, I couldn't get the only thing I couldn't even. The thing was that when I pulled this bleed nipple off this side of the caliper, I could still operate the brake and have this piston move all the way out. So there really was no flow from this side to this side. So this is why this thing would not move out. So all right, so I've got the calipers apart. This one, which was the stubborn one, which was stuck. What I eventually ended up doing with it was once I got the two halves apart, I put the C-clamp on this with a piece of cedar wood to protect the piston, basically like that, and I squeezed it all the way back in, and it took a lot of force, and eventually it popped. For God's sake. Sorry about that. Yeah, so what I was saying was it kind of popped, and you can see some of the corrosion on the inside there. That's kind of what was, I think, stopping the piston from moving. But once it moved, I was able to sink it all the way back in, and then I just put my compressor on this fluid port here with my rubber-tipped airline thingy, and was able to. I put a rag over it so it didn't fire across the shop, and was able to gently ease that out with some air pressure. So now I've got all of the everything apart. I'm going to take the seals out of here. These will get cleaned up, probably put them in the ultrasonic cleaner, and yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, front calipers. Figure if I'm going to throw these in the ultrasonic cleaner and get these ready, it just makes sense to do everything at the same time. So what I've done is I've just mounted the brake lever and master cylinder in the vise just gently. I've got a rag in here to protect it, so I could still basically use this to pump out these pistons. So what I'm going to do first of all, just disassemble as much as I can, get the pads out, take all the clips and whatnot out of here, and then I can see what I can finagle. As far as, that's a technical word, by the way, finagle. When you're working with brakes, you finagle things out of there. That's just put that in your lexicon of terms. So I'm having a bit of a bugger of a time getting this piston here to come out. These ones are not doing much either yet, but I'm trying to get one set out at a time. So these ones, I've got them kind of stopped with the brake pads so nothing can come out. This one I've got a clamp on it. These ones I'm going to kind of shim these in as well so that these can't come out anymore. I did have this completely taken apart and was trying to use compressed air, but I couldn't block. There's two oil passageways, one on each side for the brake fluid, and there was no good way to, I had a piece of rubber like that. I was trying to block off one with a clamp, but there was no good way to clamp it on to stop the air escaping. So I put them back together, and now I'm attempting to kind of bleed the system again. I'm not getting much pressure yet, but these, you can see these guys moving a little bit. So when I move the lever, you can see that moving. So I think, yeah, I need something to stop that moving at all in order to get that stubborn one here to move. All right, you can see the corrosion here on this piston. There's white powder, and it's actually forced the dust seal out as it's coming out. So that's the one that's binding really bad. This one is starting to come out as well, which is good. This one down here is still stuck in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this clamp off here, move the brake pads in between these two so they can come out evenly, and then see if I can get this other one to move over here. All right, so got one front caliper set apart. This one, the pistons just don't want to budge, even with them sticking out that far. I can't get any of them to move any further. So what I've done is I've left this one disconnected. I've reconnected only one of these to the master cylinder, so I'm going to put all the hydraulic pressure to one caliper and hope I can gently push all of these out, and I'll just kind of lock each one in place with C-clamps and old brake pads and whatnot until I can get them most of the way out. Hopefully that works. All right, so I managed to get the two larger pistons are basically kind of out as far as they can go while the caliper's still in its two halves still joined together, put it that way. I've got this one that the clamp is on does want to move more than the one that's kind of, this one is moving, so I've got it clamped. This one is starting to come out, but it's taking its time. So yeah, I'm just kind of pumping away here. I've got the master cylinders attached, as I said, and this other little one over here doesn't want to move any more than it already has. What a pain in the backside this is. All right, so that's about as far as I can get them. Yeah, get a good pull on the lever all the way back, and then this one finally popped free. But yeah, I guess we'll disassemble these again and see if we can haul those out. Let's see if we can use a little bit of compressed air to force out at least one of these pistons. not gonna go. Nope, not gonna work. To do the brute force method with the pliers and a shop rag wrapped around there. See if I can get them out that way. Got it. All the crap that's in these calipers. A lot of corrosion, rust, and all kinds of stuff. So these are going to get ultrasonically cleaned, and then we'll yeah, I've got caliper rebuild kits for all these new seals and all that kind of stuff. So what a mess. This dust seal actually came out as it pushed the piston out, same as it did on the other one. So yeah, it's they're a bit of a mess, so definitely needed to be rebuilt. It's minus 26 Celsius this morning. It is absolutely freezing. Awful. Pretty clear, but awfully cold. I did a bit of a cleaning on the calipers before I put them in here, just with a little bit of kerosene and a toothbrush, but there's still a ton of crap on these things. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put them in the ultrasonic cleaner for a while and see what that does. I'm actually going to turn them this way so that there's less chance of air getting trapped inside the calipers and the orifices and whatnot. So I'm going to put them that way, and then we'll set these guys in here for a while. If you want to know what I put in there, check out my carb cleaning videos. That'll show you what I use. And then I think I'm also going to put some of the other things in here, like the bleeder nipples can go in. So for small parts, I use one of these T-balls. It's one of those things you just stick loose drinking tea in before you put it in your cup. And I just find it's handy for putting in small parts in there so they don't get lost in the bottom of the ultrasonic cleaner. So how hot? And we'll jack the temperature up to 60, and we'll put the time at 25 minutes. There we go. So, all right, so we're out of the ultrasonic cleaner. I found the ultrasonic cleaner works quite well for brake calipers. The other thing it does, it'll lift off and peel off any of the loose paint. That sometimes it's kind of hard to tell when the paint's compromised on these because of the if they've leaked a little bit. And yeah, the ultrasonic cleaner will just blister that paint right off if it's questionable. So yeah, the rear calipers are peeling a little bit, so I've kind of taken the wire brush to those and knocked off the loose stuff. And now the job comes with cleaning inside these cylinders. So we'll have to be quite cautious about how that happens. This upper land here needs to be cleaned very carefully and polished up with some very fine emery paper and WD-40. The grooves where the caliper sits, the groove where the seal sits also has to be thoroughly cleaned, but you got to be very careful with that because you don't want to scratch the inside of that groove, because then you could potentially get leaks. So I've had some reasonably good luck using again a piece of emery paper and WD-40 in there, and then just use a pick to move that emery paper around. Using a pick is kind of controversial. You can damage the inside of those grooves easily if you're using a pick in the wrong way. If you're very careful and you move along this way with a pick, you can get out any of the sort of the hard, crusty corrosion pieces. What you don't want to be doing is going up and down this way with a pick. that'll just make a real mess of the caliper. So yeah, it's just, you've got to be super, super careful, because it is easy to scratch these because they're just aluminum, and if you scratch them, they can leak. So that's the challenge when they get as crusty as this. I mean, look inside there. That top valley where the dust seal sits, that's rough. It's just full of crusty nastiness. Now that's not keeping fluid back. That's kind of a dust seal, so it's not quite as critical, but I still try to exercise the same sort of care. I've tried to use plastic picks, nylon picks, and to be honest, they just did not work well for me personally. I know other people have had success with those, but they just don't have enough substance to them. They just bend too easily, and they don't really take the corrosion off the way I like. So yeah, that's got to be cleaned. You can see in here there's still some staining in there that needs to be carefully cleaned off. I'll use some solvents initially. I don't want to use anything abrasive if I don't have to, but if I have to use like a 12 or 1500 with some WD-40, that'll bring it right off without any trouble at all, and it won't damage it. And again, you just got to make sure that you're going around. You don't want to be going in and out with sandpapers. If you're using this motion, going toward the back with the emery paper, you're going to make a mess of this. I only go around. Typically those top dust seals are the worst, because they're the ones that get exposed to all the moisture typically, right? And that's and what I find is when pistons become hard to extract, see how bad my nail looks? Jeez, that's because well, it's actually almost grown out now. I digress here for a moment. I put a drill through my nail. I was drilling something and it slipped, went through my glove, hit about there, and it just tore all the way down the nail, made a mess. But that was about 2 months ago, so we're getting out of it now. But anyway, there's still some crap loose in there. I guess it was just kind of sitting the wrong way. Anyway, where was I? I don't remember. Anyway, needless to say, there's a lot of work still to be done to clean these up. Okay, moving on to the foot peg assemblies, and I've disconnected this undesirable one. And before I put on one of the new ones, I'm just going to clean up all of the hardware and the mounting heel guards or ankle guards, whatever you want to call these. So it's 600 wet with WD-40, followed by 800 wet with WD-40, followed by 1000, followed by 1500, and then I'll hit it with the Autosol metal polish. And then once it's kind of got the luster that I'm looking for, then we'll clear coat it. Okay, there the shin guards are all clear coated, so they can sit drying for a while. And then got to just do a little bit more cleanup on this stuff before they go back together. This stuff obviously is going to be cleaned and rebuilt. And I did, as I said before, I did find a rear caliper rebuild kit. However, that's going to be delayed because although Canada Post is now back to work, nobody's shipping to Canada still because of the backlog, so that's going to be a bit of a wait, unfortunately. Okay, so the rear sets are back on, and same with this side. Cleaned up quite nicely. Got the proper foot pegs on there, so that's nice to get rid of those pinky purple ones. Next. Alright, so the calipers have all been cleaned and sanded and taped off. I've got all of the various threads. They're all plugged with silicone plugs or foam ear plugs or what have you. So just putting a coat of etching primer on these. Dry them off a little bit with the heat gun. Get them nice and dry. Help the dry process a little bit. And then we'll hit it with some gold paint and then with clear coat. So as with any kind of painting, it's always better to do a few light coats than one heavy coat. Just generally get better coverage and fewer runs and whatnot. So typically you end up having to go at these things from a couple of different sides just because, yeah, it's just hard to get coverage proper otherwise. So I'll spray them from this side and then I'll turn the piece of paper around and get them from the other side. And so there's the second coat. Just use the heat gun again just to help dry the paint off a little bit before we try any clear coat on it. Gold caliper paint is a little bit darker than I would like ideally, but tends to hold up better than the standard gold paint that you can get. There is a duplicate paint that's a little bit lighter, but I don't find it to be quite as durable for this sort of thing. So, okay, second coat of clear is going on. I'm only doing the 1K clear on these. I just don't have enough 2K clear here at home to do this, unfortunately, in 2K. But when I did the Kawasaki with this stuff, it was just fine. So. All right, with the final coat of clear on these, we're going to let those dry for a while. And then once I can set those aside, I'm going to turn my attention to the pistons. They're all going to get polished with probably about 800 and then 1000 grit wet with WD-40. Get any of the dirt and the marks and whatever corrosion happens to be on here. Get all those cleaned up for the rears and the fronts. And then I'll be ready to start reassembling. The front ones I can get put back together. The rear ones I'm still waiting for the seal kit. All right, all the pistons are polished up. There were, if I'm being completely honest here, there were a couple where the corrosion has actually pitted the piston. See right there, and so I'm going to use them anyway. I've cleaned them up. There's a couple like that. You can see it clearly right there. Now what I've done is I've measured the distance from like the bottom of the piston to where the corrosion starts, and I've measured from the top down. And then I've gone to the caliper and measured where the seal is going to ride. And I think I'm going to be okay, but yeah, I'll double check it. There's one I'm a little bit concerned about, so I might have to, like this one here is the worst, so I might have to invest in some new pistons. I'm just worried about that one leaking a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. I'm going to measure it again and just kind of see how much of a problem I might have there. But so, as it happens, I have two new pistons here, which are the same size as these. They don't have the wooden pucks in them, but they could go in there. These other two, these are, I think it's only been like 30 seconds since I measured the things. Now I've already forgotten. 34 millimeter, I think. Let's just double check. Yeah, these are 34 mil. Which is what these guys are. These are 27 mil, but these other ones I think are 30 millimeter. Yeah, these are 30 mil. So these guys I can't use, but if I have to use these guys, I can use these. So I have options. All right, so the pistons are all going back in. Got all the new seals in there, and typically what I do, some people use brake fluid. I use rubber grease, so this is Racetech rubber grease specifically for rubber. I put a thin smear on the seals, and then I put a thin smear on the pistons, and then just slide them right on in, just like that. They go in pretty easy, so that's what I'm doing. And then once the pistons are all in, then I can put the seals on the fluid transfer ports, and then bolt these things back together. So there's the front calipers back together, and as I've said, still waiting for the caliper kit to arrive for the rears. So yeah, that's going to be it, I think, for brakes for now until I get around to bleeding them. Putting these together is really no different than the front ones. It's pretty simple. I think the only thing I have to do is grease this little slide pin here. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward, and the new pads are in here. You can kind of see them in there. Good and ready to go. So I think to keep those out of the way, keep them safe, I might actually just mount them to the forks temporarily. That way they're not kind of banging around in a box of a bunch of dirty old stuff, and they're not cluttering up the bench, so I'll get those mounted up just to keep them out of the way. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't been able to do so already. Very much appreciated. And we'll see you in the next video. It's coming next Friday as usual. Thanks.